Sinn Féin will today table a motion in the Dáil calling for the planned increase in carbon tax in May to be scrapped. The party said it should not go ahead due to rises in the cost of living. And Pearse Doherty, Sinn Féin's finance spokesperson, joins us now. Pearse, if you could elaborate on that. Obviously, we're in a climate crisis. Most people believe it's one of the most important issues facing us in terms of humanity, let alone as a country. Not having an increase in carbon, how would that work? In carbon tax, forgive me.
Thanks, Ciara. First of all, what this is geared at is the realisation, living in the real world and recognising where energy prices are at over the last year. And we see for those, and about a third of all homes heat their homes using home heating oil. In border counties such as my own in Donegal in the west, 2/3 of their homes are heated using home heating oil. And that has already increased by 53% in the last year. Gas has increased by 28%. And we know that the average cost of additional cost of heating your home now has gone up by €700. For lower income households, for rural households, it's actually more because they're using home heating oil as opposed to electricity and gas, and homes that are worse insulated are worse affected. So this is a huge burden, and what we need from government, as we have been calling for the last couple of weeks, is a proper cost of living package. But what we also need from government is to ensure that they don't make matters worse. And that's what they're planning to do on the 1st of May. Within 3 months, they plan to increase the cost of gas and they plan to increase the cost of home heating oil further by increasing carbon tax. And we believe it is absolutely the wrong decision. It couldn't come at a worse time for families. And therefore, the motion before the Dáil this evening is about ensuring that increase is stopped. The impact of that in terms of the Exchequer is about €32 million on that measure alone. And that is easily recouped, and we've shown them how different ways of bringing in that type of money plus more that could be brought in. For example, the banking levy was cut by €63 million last year, which shouldn't have been, in my view. That's double the amount of.
But Pearse, what you said there is we need the government to bring in a cost of living package. The government have brought in a cost of living package. They brought in the budget back in October. They brought in a change to tax credits, but only 2 weeks ago they brought in the energy credit of €200 per household. They extended the fuel allowance. They reduced public transport costs by 20%. They lowered the drug refund scheme. Like they would say, and they would make the argument to you, they have brought in a cost of living that, and particularly one that is aimed to protect lower income families, as you refer to, because everyone, yes, gets the energy credit, but the fuel allowance has been extended for those specific groups that you're talking about targeting.
Yeah, well, look, what we wanted the government to do, and we've been talking to the government for the best part of a year about this, is to actually recognise where people are at and bring in a cost of living package that actually
in fairness, just on that, we spoke to Professor John Fitzgerald last week on where people are at, and he said, yes, absolutely, people are worse off now than they were 6 months ago. But actually, people are better off now than they were 2 years ago. And would you accept that actually we aren't any worse off? In fact, we're better off than we were 2 years ago. But in those 2 years, the climate crisis has become more acute.
Well, actually, that would be challenging to accept, particularly with energy prices and particularly with low-income households, because the impact on, as I said, the average household is over €700. For those in lower incomes or with poorly insulated homes, it's actually increased. So that would be challenging. But forget about what I'm saying about the government. Listen to what St Vincent de Paul said. They criticised the government's package. Listen to what Social Justice Ireland said. They criticised the government's package. Or one parent family families representatives criticised the government's package because it wasn't deep enough. It didn't go far enough. It didn't actually deal with where people are at right now. And the fact that, for example, the energy credit was paid to, somebody on a ministerial salary and somebody who is going to St Vincent de Paul this evening at the same level actually speaks volumes. The fact that 12 million is being spent on holiday homes again speaks volumes. And what we should have done is targeted individual payments, as has been done, for example, in the north and other countries, to individuals who are most in need. That didn't happen. So that hasn't happened. We still need a package like that, but what we crucially need is not make things worse.
And what about the accusations that are levelled against Sinn Féin fairly frequently by your opposing parties, that you are actually soft on green issues, that you have been speaking out of both sides of your mouth on wind farms, that you don't want an increase in carbon tax. In fact, you were very reluctant to accept the need for carbon tax at all in the beginning, and that really Sinn Féin is soft on green issues and it's not a priority for you at all as a party?
that's just nonsense from government who just don't want to deal with the realities of that they're pushing up prices in oil and gas and petrol and diesel in ordinary families. Look, it's Sinn Féin that brought forward our legislation last year in terms of a green hydrogen bill, calling on the government to bring forward a strategy. The European Commission has a strategy for the last 2 years. Scotland, our neighbours, have had a strategy since 2015. It is Sinn Féin members a number of years ago brought forward legislation in terms of microenergy. Again, it is us that have been calling for different investment in public transport, in rural regeneration, in areas. In my own budget package that I put forward last year, there was over €400 million additional environmental measures. That's the type of ambition we need. But look, if the government believes that the only way that you can fund this is through carbon tax, I think that is a non-starter. And we have to recognise that those who are actually the biggest contributors to carbon in the globe, including Ireland here, are those at the top level. So, for example, the bottom 50% of households actually only emit 10% of carbon, compared to the top 10% of households make up 47%. That's where it needs to be targeted, and stop targeting, as the government are planning to do in May.
So you
pushing up
you
oil,
stand by,
gas,
you do not want to
workers
see
and
this increase in carbon tax.